Hi, this is David J. Fielding, Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you're watching Action Activate!
What's going on? This is Gazbot, and I'm here for Action Activate. I'm at Silicon Valley Comic-Con, and I am with...
David Fielding.
Now, David, you're known for, among other things, playing Zordon Power Rangers.
Correct.
But before we get into that, I want to ask a very pressing question. What is one of your favorite bands?
One of my favorite bands is Prince and the Revolution.
Really?
Yes.
That's quite a...
My early college years were 82, 80, 83, 84, so Prince was huge then, big influence on me, such an amazing talent, played everything, wrote everything, arranged everything. It was just amazing. Plus, you know, Wendy and Lisa and the Revolution and everybody in the band, it was just an amazing period in music, and I loved that band.
And specifically that period of Prince's career.
Because I was becoming much more aware of things in the world in general, and that music just really spoke to me, and it was the background for a lot of like really amazing experiences early in my life. So yeah,
That's a really good answer. Thank you. So now, going back into Power Rangers. You played Zordon years ago, but recently you reprised the role, in voice at least, on Battle for the Grid.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit how that came about and what your experience was?
When Boom started to do the comic books for Shattered Grid, I mean, I really enjoyed the story that they were doing, and communicated back and forth with Kyle Higgins, the writer, a couple of times. And in 2018 at Power Morphicon, we did the Shattered Grid live read.
I was there, and the crowd had chills when you started speaking.
And what was really amazing about that is that Kyle and I had worked out so that my microphone would be, it would have some voice effects on it. It would have an echo. So they really tried to match the vocal quality of the character on the show. So when it first started and everybody just, there was that collective gasp and people started applauding and stuff. I think that was like a catalyst because Hasbro was there. Hasbro saw what was going on, and they were working closely with Enway on the game. And when they brought Kyle on to do the story for Battle for the Grid, he wanted to use as many of the original actors from the show as possible to give much more authenticity and to really give the players a chance to play with the characters in the show. So I think that's where that started.
And I think that's great, not just to bring back the actors and honor them for their contribution, but also the fans want to see or hear you guys.
Yeah. And it was really fun for me to be able to voice the character again after 25 years and to read those lines again from the live read. It was just really a lot of fun.
You know, related to that, with the live read for the comic at Power Morphicon, was that the first time you had performed that character in front of an audience?
Outside of a convention, doing a couple of lines here and there for fans, yeah. To do a large monologue like that, to interact with Barbara, Rita, and to do, I mean, the subtleties that she was bringing to the read, and we really elevated the stakes from what the show was. The show was very kid friendly and was put together so quickly because they were working so hard to get as many episodes done as possible. There wasn't a whole lot of room for variation or to really use the tools that we were given to explore other options and to really raise it up. But to banter back and forth with Rita was such a fun thing, and Barbara's such a wonderful person, so it was great. Yeah.
And it was a pleasure for all of us to watch it. Look, so I wanted to ask you something. I haven't seen this, so maybe you could let me know if I should. On your IMDb, there was a project called Super Task Force 1 that you did in 2013, and it was a face acting job. Like you were actually played a doctor, correct? Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I met the young gentleman when I was living in Pittsburgh, and he was a huge Power Rangers fan, and he had been doing some short film projects that I helped work on a couple of them. Super Task Force 1 was his sort of tribute to Sentai and the Power Rangers kind of stuff.
So it was an original American thing then?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was filmed in Pittsburgh, and we shot it like in one day or whatever, and it was just a lot of fun. His name, I know him by Dark Mullet on Instagram, but I mean he does a lot of fun stuff. So yeah.
Cool. Well, everybody should check that out and follow Dark Mullet. Awesome. What is something about you, David Fielding, not Zordon, that you wish more people knew?
I don't know. I don't consider myself any different from anybody else. I mean, I'm a writer, and I'm about to have one of my books go live, be published this fall. So I hope more people find out about that.
Can you tell us the title or where it will be available?
Yeah, the title of it is called Glims, and is a paranormal urban fantasy. So if you're a fan of paranormal or ghosts or whatever, you might want to check it out. As soon as it comes out, it'll be blasted all over my social media, so we can check it out then.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect example of something you want people to know then. All right. Going back to Power Rangers again. You were the original Zordon, both the face and the voice. Over time, that changed, and I've heard different things from different people about where you stopped, where other people began, and things like that. Could you just definitively tell us when you were Zordon and in what capacity?
Sure. I was Zordon from the beginning. When they were auditioning for people for the pilot, I came in for the audition and I won the role, and so we filmed the character one time, and that was in October of '92 or late September '92, and at the time, just doing it, I was like, I knew that it was a pilot, and pilots get filmed all the time in LA, and a lot of them don't get picked up. So when I was told, we'll call you in a couple of weeks when the show gets picked up, I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. But luckily, or fortuitously, the show did get picked up, and I was like very excited. I was like, wow, I just moved here, and now I'm on a TV show. That's awesome. Yeah. And when I asked them when I would, report to set, and they're like, oh, well, we've already used you. We're just going to bring you in to do voices. So it was a little bit of a letdown to know that the character was just going to be my face, and then I would just do voices over that. But I also got a chance to see a lot more behind the scenes. And much like Zordon, I was very disconnected from the rest of the cast because I was never on set with them. Right. I didn't get to interact with them. They would interact with a tennis ball that was plugged up on a wall, and I would go into the studio and just plug my lines into whatever footage was being used. So when the show was being filmed, all during the first part of the year 1993, January through April, even further than that, I think, I would only get a call like every 5 or 6 weeks to come in and do voices for 4 or 5 episodes at a time because they would do everything. And so during that time, I was working a couple of jobs. I was trying to audition, and I got very burned out with living in LA. Sure. And had sort of come to the realization that maybe that wasn't really what I wanted to do. There were certain aspects of it that I felt like I didn't want to sacrifice to lose a certain part of me. And Tony Oliver was very distressed when he found out that I wanted to leave LA. He's like, oh, if you just waited out another 6 months. And in hindsight, it would have been interesting to see if I'd stayed another 6 months, what else would have happened. As far as I know, the character was never planned to be anything than what he was. He was always going to be this character that was trapped in a time warp and sort of a mentor, expositionatory, let me tell you what's happening, you take care of it kind of character. So I don't think there were any plans to ever bring him outside of the tube or anything like that. So as far as I could tell, there was no growth for the character. And when we went in to talk to Haim at the time, because Tony was like really trying desperately to get me to stay, and he goes, let's just go talk to Haim and see what Haim has to say. And I was like, okay. And Haim asked me, why I was upset, and I was like, I'm just burned out at it, and he's like, okay, well, we'll find another voice. And I was like, and again, that's one of those it was one of those moments where you realize, okay, I understand how the game works, and if that's the if that's how you feel about the character, which is opposite of how I feel about the character, and you own all of that, that's great. That's your decision. And so there was no hard feelings. There was no I didn't leave because I felt mistreated or anything like that. I was just mentally and emotionally burned out living there, and so I moved back to the East Coast, and I had voiced the character for 31 episodes. My last episode was Calamity Kimberly. That's the last one. And then after that, Robert Manahan took over the voice. Yes, throughout the life of the character, as far as I know. So when a lot of people hear the voice, what they may be hearing is Robert's voice. If they go back and watch like the first half of the first season, it's me. And a lot of people talk about how Zordon had kind of like a British accent at the beginning, and it really wasn't British. It was what they call a mid-Atlantic accent, which is what we were taught in elocution class or vocal class, to really sort of like enunciate your tones and to hit the plosives and all that kind of stuff. So I was just trying to speak as clearly and concisely as possible. So
That makes sense because it had a very theatrical, like I got to reach the back of the theater kind of.
yeah, and well, my mother is English, so if a little bit of a lilt crept in there, that's probably where that's from. But I was just trying to do the best that I could with the training that I had. So
Well, I think everybody enjoyed it to this day, obviously.
well, it obviously meant something to somebody because they gave me the part because I basically auditioned with the performance that you see in the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for going into such detail on that. That's great. I don't want to hold you too long, so let me see. If they're talking about rebooting, they did the new movie a couple years ago, which obviously Bryan Cranston reprised the Zordon role. What did you think of that, actually?
I thought it was awesome. I like the fact that Zordon, obviously they made him an original Red Ranger, which I thought was so awesome to tie.
Which is kind of what you would have liked to have done.
Yeah, I mean, to tie the character into physically embodying what he grants to the other Rangers is awesome. That sort of passing the torch kind of thing is great. I did like the fact that Zordon was kind of a jerk in the fact that he was so focused on fixing the problem that he couldn't see beyond, what he needed to see. I thought they did a great job as far as making the character more dynamic. When we did the show, we were limited by the technology of the time. We filmed Zordon with what they call chroma key, which is basically just a green screen. And it was just my face. We didn't have motion capture back then. There was no rig where, they put dots on my face and I wore a camera rig in front of me. There was none of that. So to see the technology which allowed the character to move back and forth on the wall of the ship, I thought was a great choice. Dynamically, it made the character much more alive, made it pop. So I thought that was great. I love the fact that Zordon redeems himself through Billy's sacrifice, and he learns a lesson as well as the children does. So I mean that was awesome. I thought they took a little bit long getting to the parts that all of us really enjoy about the show. I wish the Zords had been bigger. I missed Goldar. I wanted my Goldar, but I mean, overall, I thought all the actors they chose for the kids were spot on. It was so good. I just really enjoyed it, and it was really strange to be in the audience and hear the name Zordon over and over, and nobody was looking at me. I was like, hey,
You would think somebody would recognize you.
Yeah, but I mean, it was fun. It was fun.
That's great. And yeah, I think most people agree that whatever grievances they may have had with Goldar or something, everybody liked the actors and thought it was good. All right, well, one final question before I let you go. There's been a lot of seasons of Power Rangers. I don't know how familiar you are with them. But if you could think of any Red Ranger other than the one that on your season, other than Jason, or who would you choose as the best Red Ranger or your favorite Red Ranger or whatever criteria you want to use other than Jason?
See, this is how much the character of Zordon has sort of influenced my interaction. I can't choose one. Zordon, and even myself, it's like I can't pick one over the other. I mean, all of the actors. I will say this: whatever it is that they put into the water that they give people that audition for the show, they have this amazing formula to find some really awesome people to play these characters who really have big hearts and are really sort of heroes in their own right. So anyone who is chosen to put on the red suit or the yellow suit or the black suit, blue suit, green suit, whatever suit, those are the people, the right people for that moment. I mean, there have been so many good Red Rangers, Steve Cardenas, Jason Font, JDF, Brennan, Meha, just so many of Andrew Gray from Megaforce. I mean, they're all just really great people, and I think they all deserve to wear the uniform. So.
I could totally see where you're coming from, and some of those you mentioned are some of my favorites, and it's a very Zordon answer, you're right. But I'm sorry, you are wrong. Casey from Jungle Fury is the best Red Ranger. All right, so is there any upcoming project? I mean, you mentioned your book, but anything else you want to promote, or a show you're going to be at, or your Instagram, or anything you want to let people know?
Next weekend I will be at Bubba Fest in Knoxville, Tennessee, so hopefully fans will come out for that. I haven't heard anything about any other shows coming up, but if that happens, they'll be on my Instagram. My book will be out soon, and yeah.
And I know your Instagram, but for them, what is it?
It is DJFielding_Zordon on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitter at David J. Fielding.
Makes sense. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet.
Have a good show.
All right.